Broken Kayfabe, the unofficial after show of Breaking Kayfabe with Balger and Barry, the greatest podcast on God's green earth, the podcast that spawned the Facebook subgroup that it almost broke the internet, the Brothership. And if you are not a member of Breaking Kayfabe with Balger and Barry Facebook group, then why the heck not? Jump in there and you'll experience the love, the joy, the fellowship of the Brothership. And also, if you are not listening to Breaking Kayfabe with Balger and Barry, then I don't know how you even found this podcast. But thank you all for joining me. I am joined by my co-host, Ariel Agbalog. Hey, Ariel, what is up, man?
Nothing much, just chilling, hanging out. It's cold and rainy here in San Jose.
Oh, wow. You know, it rained in Vegas while we were there, and the one of the Uber drivers or something said, hey, make sure you tell everyone it rained when you're in Vegas, because no one is going to believe it, because it rarely rains there. So it did the last day that we were there. So we're recording here 2 days after Christmas, and I didn't have any big parties. You know, we got the kids back right the day after we got back. So the kids were at their biological dad's house for the week previous. So my wife just cooked a basic meal with some of her mom's recipes, and that was cool because, you know, we don't have family here in Florida to spend the holidays with. So that was absolute fine. But I did see that you went to a Christmas party. How was that?
It was fine. Yeah, I went to a distant relative's Christmas party. They actually live down the street from my house, but I've never met them before. It's like let's see, it's on my father's side, and I think they're like cousins of my dad or second cousins or something like that. So they invited us to go to their house for Christmas dinner, and it was also my dad's cousin's birthday too. He was born on Christmas, and so we went there. My mother and I went. My dad wasn't feeling well. He was working. He worked the night before or the day before, so he wasn't really up to going there. He just wanted to sleep and rest. So my mother and I went, and I was the only younger person there. Everyone was like, you know, middle-aged or older. So I didn't have anyone to talk to. It was cool though. I mean, I made 2 new friends, and there were dogs. So that's always a plus.
Hey, do you think that maybe your dad was just working you guys and he really didn't want to go and hang around his family, but he's like, you know, you guys go ahead, you know, but I'm not going to go be around those bunch of nuts?
Absolutely. Yeah. My dad's side of the family, they're crazy. We don't get along with most of them. A lot of them are like, you know, drama or yeah, I really don't want to talk about it, but yeah, they're yeah, we don't get along with them. This one was pretty cool. They were just distant relatives, but my father's siblings, the ones that are actually left, a bunch of them passed away. There's like 13 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big family. And I have a big family that I haven't met yet, like cousins and whatnot. But yeah, a lot of them are kind of ex-convicts. Well, they're unsavory people and stuff like that. Yeah.
The important question is, what were the dogs like?
Oh, the dogs were awesome. They were quiet. They're 2 females. They're actually pretty fat. One was a Shiba Inu. Her name is Dixie, and the other one, her name is Olive, but I don't know what kind of dog she is. She's kind of I guess a mixed breed, but I can't recall what kind of dog. But she was very cute. She walks with a limp, so I asked what happened, and she's kind of disabled. Okay. But she's a good dog. Dixie's a good dog too, but she's so fat for a Shiba Inu. It's like, yeah, I could post pictures, but yeah, I was just hanging out with them most of the time. We were watching like basketball. We were watching the Warriors game against the Suns. Very good game. But other than that, like when they busted out the karaoke machine, that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna hang out somewhere else. So I went to the garage with the dogs and just hung out there by myself.
Yeah, that would have probably been my move too. That's probably where I would have ended up.
Yeah.
So, Ariel, I told you what I had for dinner, or did I? Well, I said my wife cooked. So let me just name off the things that we had. We had stuffing, which is my mother-in-law's recipe, and a green bean casserole. We had fillets. My mother-in-law and father-in-law got us Omaha steaks. My mom sent us Kansas City steaks. So we got a bunch of steaks and pork chops and whatnot. So we had the steaks, and then my wife made my mother-in-law's recipes on a couple of things, and it was a really easy, fun meal that incorporated some things from our family. But I did see some pictures of what you had. But what is it? What did you have for your Christmas dinner?
So during the Christmas party that my mother and I went to, we had an assortment of Filipino foods. I show you a picture of it, and there's of course lumpia, which is the egg rolls. Pancit palabok, which is a noodle dish made with like shrimp paste or shrimp broth or something like that. It's a unique flavor. I can't really describe it, but it's a shrimpy uh, flavor to it. I also had a dish called from my region, from my family's region, called pinakbet, and it's a vegetable stew. It's a lot of vegetables like eggplant, green beans, okra, all cooked with some pork belly or pork shoulder. My mom made it. That's the dish that she brought over because they were requesting it. I also had the most tender brisket I've ever had in my life. My uncle Joe, he cooked it. I don't know how he did it, but I was cutting it with a spoon. It was that tender and it was so good. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it was. I couldn't get enough of it, and my mom was getting mad because I was getting all the fatty parts because it was a fatty brisket, and she was like whispering like, "You gotta stop that because your cholesterol." But the interesting dish that was on my plate was the dinuguan, which is a pork blood stew, also known as chocolate meat to the uninitiated. Yeah, so it went along the lines of the grossest foods that we talked about several weeks back, but it's a stew that had pork shoulder, pork belly, jalapenos, and sometimes they put liver. This one didn't have any liver in it, but it's all stewed in pork's blood and vinegar. That vinegar is the key because it cuts the taste of the irony taste and the blood taste. It totally just gets rid of it, and you can't tell that it's blood unless somebody tells you it is. But
Mm.
that's what I love that dish. My parents don't cook it anymore. They hate it. They don't like dealing with the blood,
Mhm.
and they don't like dealing with that kind of food anymore. Some innards and stuff like that. Also had another soup dish called uh pinapaitan, and it's a beef stew, a Filipino beef stew with lots of garlic, um, bell peppers, tripe, cuts of beef. This one had liver. I didn't like it, and traditionally bile.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah, and it gives it the this very bitter, this very sharp um, flavor profile, but this one didn't have it. It was replaced with vinegar that made it a bit sour and gave it that effect. It also cut the fat a bit because there were some fatty pieces. But traditionally, it's made with bile, and I absolutely hate it if it's made that way. That's the old school way, and I don't like it. But It has tripe and all that stuff, and I don't know if you like tripe or not, if you've ever had it.
Not a fan. Yep, I've had it.
Yeah, so it had that and vinegar, but that was the more exotic uh parts of the dinner.
Wow.
Yeah, it's I grew up eating it, so it's something that I'm totally used to, and I don't really it doesn't bother me too much. Bolot, on the other hand, I've never had and I never will try it. It's kind of weird saying that, but
Are those dishes that you had for, kind of as a tradition, or is it that's what folks eat and they like it?
probably a little bit of both. There's
Okay.
uh, as far as my family's concerned, like we don't, as a tradition, we don't cook that. We do the rice porridge soup. But as far as parties is concerned, those dishes are usually there because it's meant to be made in bulk, so it feeds a lot of people. Also the region of where that particular family came from, and they came from the northern part also. So those dishes are kind of prevalent there, and yeah, but it does feed a lot of people. It's just something that they cook that it's not too hard to make, but it feeds everybody.
Well, cool, man. That sounds really interesting. It's nice to hear, like, what other cultures are eating on the holidays. I,
Yeah.
I think it's really neat. I mean, my mom, as I was growing up, she would cook pinto beans on Sunday, and we'd eat pinto beans from Sunday all the way up through Thursday. And we would have chicken every dish, pretty much, and then some canned vegetable that she would cook. So, and she worked, so it wasn't like she had all day to cook or whatnot. But that was what I had and what I grew up on. So once I got out of the house and I went straight to the military, I enjoyed seeing all these other foods that I'd never even tried. I think growing up, we didn't even have a Chinese restaurant, didn't have a Mexican restaurant when I was growing up in my hometown.
I
So
see.
I'm always excited to hear what other folks are eating.
Yeah, me too. That's that's why I love looking at the posts that the brother shippers um put on, like their food, what they're eating. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I mean, then you have like folks that like Ryan Wade up in uh, Canned up on the East Coast there, or Jamie Ward and Michael Herrick. They posted a bunch of neat pictures that you can see people from all over the U.S. that are what they have. I think Michael Herrick's in Indiana, Jamie Ward's
Hmm.
near Philadelphia or something. So you can see all these different foods from those different regions. I mean, I think it's so neat. Another reason why the brothership is so awesome. So I'll tell you a little bit about our Vegas trip. Since we didn't do a whole lot, over the holidays there. Here's sort of my take on my Vegas experience. So we got there late, and Matt Spiker's going to pop on this, but my wife is very frugal. So am I, though. And so we went, and as we first got to the hotel, we stayed at the Mirage, and we got there late. It was like 1:30. So it would have been 4:30 our time. So we were exhausted. However, I was hungry. And so the only place that was open there in our hotel was this place called Snacks, which, was like basically a snack bar, but, they had a grill. So we went in there, and on the menu, they had a burger for $15.
Ooh.
And so my wife got the burger. I got a chicken sandwich only because it was cheaper. It was 13, and I was just like, man, I cannot believe how expensive it is. Because last time we stayed in MGM Grand, and there was a food court there, so things were more affordable. And I expected it to be similar since it's also an MGM property, but it was way up there. So I was pissed off from the get go that I had to pay for a $15 cheeseburger that was okay. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't great. and then a $13 chicken sandwich. I was just mad. So we went upstairs, went to bed, and of course there, like they didn't have great service, with the servers coming around in the machines or playing right there, and it was late, and actually, all the other restaurants were closed, and I think they only had maybe one other one open. So maybe they had 3 restaurants in the place that were closed the whole time we were there, and so they had 2 that you could go to, and the other one was closed. This is your only option. So I was pretty pissed off about that right from the get go, and.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how it started. We slept, got the next morning, and did our thing. But we did have some really good meals. So among the top of them, we found the InNOut Burger, and so we got a wonderful cheeseburger for $5.25. And I think Barry posted in the group when I mentioned it that InNOut Burger is one of the few places that don't elevate their prices just because they're in Vegas. I was able to get a really, really good cheeseburger. So that was amazing. We ate at the Yardbird in the Venetian, which is really neat. They, I think Southern is probably how they would describe it best. But of course it was, pricey, but we knew that's what we were getting, when we went there. We went there with some of my friends from my hometown.
But getting back to the InNOut Burger, was that your first time having an InNOut Burger, or you've had it before, right?
No.
Okay.
That was the first time. And that the first day that we went there, the place was packed. So and because it was $5.25 a cheeseburger, of course we were going to go back. But the first day that we went there, absolutely packed. It was down by the Link. It was I think they call it the Link Promenade, which is like a street with restaurants, bars, and some retail shops there. So it was down by there. The first day, absolutely packed. The second day we went back was, we got our food pretty quick. It was when we were able to find a table pretty quick. But
yeah,
the first day, I waited for the food, and Jana went outside to get the table.
I see. And did you the first? I saw the picture that you posted. I saw some of the comments referring to Animal Style. Did you get that the second time around, or?
I did not. Okay. There was something about it that. I would do it if I could do it more often, but I wanted to get another burger and actually enjoy it because I was a little stressed out of having all the people waiting in line. I was worried about being able to eat without feeling rushed. And then the next time there were kids feeding the pigeons around me.
Oh,
and that drives me freaking nuts. And so I just wanted to get it and enjoy the burger the way that it was. But I'll venture out next time. We actually looked at the secret food menu, and so next time that we'll expand. Another place that we ate at besides the Yardbird in the Venetian, we ate at I think it's called Cananitas, which is on the top floor of the Venetian, and it was a Mexican restaurant, and it was really good. It was not like any Mexican food I've ever had, and I had enchiladas, but they were. The sauce on them was quite different, and it was good. It was not. It wasn't like the traditional that I've had or any that I had in Mexico the times I visited. But that was good. And then the 2 highlights of the trip of eating was we met Roman Gomez out at Ellis Island, which is a casino just off the strip, but we learned that the monorail goes right by there, like maybe a block away. We ended up taking a cab or Uber or something, but later in our trip we were on the monorail going somewhere and happened to see there's the Ellis Island, so we could have actually taken that there. It would have been cheaper, I would say.
I see. How was the meal over there with
So here's the difference. So $15 cheeseburger, or for $16.99 we got half of a barbecue chicken, half of a rack of ribs, 2 pieces of corn on the cob, baked beans, coleslaw, and a big roll.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, that is quite a deal.
Yeah, and it was, and it was seriously, it was the best ribs I've ever eaten in my entire life.
Really? Wow, nice.
So, and then a couple days later, we met up with Brandon Rice and his awesome family, and we ate at this place called the Taco Stand, which is what I understand, near Chinatown in Vegas. So Spring Mountain Road is where that one's located, not too far from where we were. And then we actually ended up going back there to this place called Area 15. I'll talk about that later. But the taco stand was amazing. The best tacos. I love the Mexican street corn, so it was like Mexican street corn on the cob. So I had a piece of that. And his family was just so cool. You know, his daughter and his son and his wife. And we sat and talked and took the obligatory picture for the Facebook group.
Yes.
Then as we were saying goodbye, these kids came up and hugged us. And, you know, his little 6-year-old boy was just a ball of energy. Just a blast to see him, you know, kind of goofing off. But then his daughter, who I think is maybe 12, 13, was like, very well spoken and calm, and you know, the complete opposite is her 6-year-old brother. You know, really, really, really cool kids.
That is awesome. He's good people. They're both good people.
Yeah, he is awesome, and it was really good to hang out with Roman. And I had him tell the story to Jana about the Dory Funk card.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and she's just like, that is completely crazy. That's something that, I mean, only in pro wrestling would that happen. You know what I mean? That would not happen with a baseball collector, or, you don't hear Pete Rose doing crazy stuff like that. So anyway, that was neat that he was able to share that story with her, and we sat and talked there for a while. Absolutely awesome. I mean, those two visits with the brother shippers was worth the trip, and we're thinking of going back and maybe taking my in-laws next time.
How many times have you been to Vegas before?
That's 2. So we were there in February of 2020, and that was right as we started hearing about COVID. I think that we had talked about on that trip, you think we should get masks? And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think it'll be anything. And wrapped up there and came back home. And then the next, in March, we got my niece for a couple of weeks for her spring break, or a week. And then when we went to take her back, we were actually debating not flying. And so that was like the middle of March. So that was right as it was getting going really good. But it was either January or February that we were there. It was February, because we were on a cruise in January. So yeah, in February, we were just hearing about the COVID stuff, so we weren't that concerned. But here a month later, in March, when we went to take my niece back, we were debating not even flying, and there wasn't a mask mandate at that point. So we went and got masks and wore masks on the whole trip. So
okay, yeah, I live so close to Vegas. Well, not so close, but I live closer to Vegas than you do, and I've only been there twice. First time was actually back in 2008 or 2009, and I actually went there for an RC drift car competition. I used to do RC drifting, those little RC cars.
Yeah, but what's the drifting part?
Going sideways.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was it a race of who got there first, or who could drift their cars the better?
It's a tandem. Yeah, it's pretty much a tandem. I don't want to go through the whole rules, but there's 2 drivers that follow up. It's a tandem race. It's not whoever gets to the finish line first. It's a lead car and a following car, and the following car has to pretty much mimic the lead car's drift lines and everything, and try to get as close to them as possible without hitting them.
Wow.
And they get points for that and all this stuff and whatnot. Sometimes there's rules where you can pass the lead car if you can. Sometimes there isn't. I think that time we didn't implement the passing rule. There was a no pass rule, so it was basically mimicking the lead car. If you're following, and then if you're I'm sorry, it's been a while since I drifted, and then if you're like the lead car, you got to try. There's different criteria. You have to, make sure your drift lines are nice and smooth, and also try to gain some distance from the following car. So you're also trying to get away from the car that's following you. You get big points for that. But yeah, it was fun. It was a very expensive hobby, but we were invited.
I've never heard of that in my entire life. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's a very niche sport, if you want to call it, or hobby. A
How'd
very
you get into
expensive.
that?
My coworker, I had a coworker that was into it, and he was like, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?" I'm like, "Nothing. Why? What's up?" He's all, "Well, do you want to go with me to this hobby store and check out uh RC drifting?" I'm like, "Dude, what? What are you talking about? RC drifting? What is this?" And then he showed me a YouTube video. And back then it was around 2008, and it was a very not very start, but it was in the beginning stages of that hobby. So they didn't have like they now have like drift spec tires, which are made with a special compound that's hard. It's not rubber tires. They're harder compound, like a plastic compound. Before they used to be like ABS. You could cut it from a pipe and just fit it on,
Wow.
and then you could get sliding like that. But now it's gotten very complicated, where they have the RC car chassis specifically meant for drifting. You could set up the suspension that way and all that stuff. It was pretty cool. But my coworker, introduced me to that, and I was very excited, seeing cars go sideways and little cars go sideways and all that stuff. And that day I went with him to the hobby store. I shelled out $900 to get a kit. The car, batteries, charger, and controller.
Wow.
$900. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, what did I do? And I told my friend, I was like, okay, so I bought this and that. And he's like, why did you buy that? That's the shitty, excuse my language. That's the shitty model. That's like very basic. You're gonna swap that out like in a couple of months once you get better. Once you should have started off with this, and it's a lot cheaper, or not cheaper. It's a little bit more, but it offered more customization and all this stuff. And he was like, yeah, you should have told me first before you started spending your money. I should have, he could have gotten me a better deal, because he knew the owner of the hobby store, and like much better equipment, or the chassis and stuff like that. But yeah, that was my first time going to Vegas, was competing in a competition over there. I ended up getting like mild heat stroke, because we were at the raceway over there in the summertime. And yeah, it was bad. I like almost passed out. And that wasn't good. That was
Wow.
That was not a good trip.
So that's your two trips to Vegas.
Oh, well, that was the first trip. The second trip was like a year later, my friend's anniversary. So I have two friends, of course, but I have a friend, and I know the husband and wife. They're, oh my gosh, I can't even talk right now. Sorry. Let me slow down. So a friend of mine invited a couple of us to his wedding anniversary with his wife. They were going to spend it in Las Vegas, but they didn't want to be alone. They just wanted to be with friends and hang out and whatnot. So we went. We stayed at their what's it called? Their timeshare, and it was fun. We went to strip clubs and all that stuff. It was kind of odd. I was kind of like teasing the not teasing, but working the strippers a little bit. Like I told them my name was Benito Santa Tananga. I don't know why. I didn't want to tell them my name. They were like asking me what my name was. So I'm like, I don't know. My name is like Benito Santa Tananga, Moroccan spice trader. And they're like, ooh, really? Blah, blah. They're just trying to make conversation so they can get my money. But yeah, I was like, I was just having fun. I didn't want to do I don't gamble. I don't do any of that stuff. So I was just there to eat. Pretty much. But yeah, there are things I can't talk about, because it was Vegas.
Yeah, that's almost every trip to Vegas.
Yeah, there were things I can't talk about, but it was a fun time over there.
Well, one thing that we thought was neat and that we appreciated was that most people wore masks and were during the shows they would say, "Hey, we know you're on vacation, but we all live here and we have to, remain safe and we don't want to get sick and we want to be able to work and whatnot. So please keep your masks on. Help protect us and so we can keep working." And I really appreciated them coming out and saying that, and for the most part, most people kept their masks on. Well, and inside places like the shows, the shows, the casinos, it was about 100% participation. So
Actually, I love that. I love that kind of attitude from the residents over there.
Yeah, me too. And when we landed and got back in Florida, and we picked up the dogs from the boarding, and my wife's just like, "Look what a different world it is, right?" Because nobody cares. It's the Wild West. Out here. With no one cares. No one's. I won't say no one, but most people don't care, and most people are against it. Most people are fighting it. And then the day that we got back, I think my wife said it was the highest number of COVID cases Florida has had during this whole time.
Okay.
We went to get on our flight to get over to Vegas. It was a red eye. I think our flight was supposed to leave like 10:30 to go to Vegas. And as we're staying up the board and the wife got us good seats, I think we're on the third row. So, I'm kind of moving up to the front, and we had carry-ons. So in Flying Frontier, carry-ons get on first. And so we were getting ready to go, and they call for elite members. A couple people get up, and then they go. And then there's this family of like 4 or 5 Latinos that get up and go. And this lady who is standing kind of right next to me starts shouting, "They're not elite members. They're not elite members. Hey, you're not elite members. You need to come back. You're not an elite member."
Wow.
Right in the airport, right? So the people go on. They may have thought they said, if you have small children, because they make that announcement, they say if you travel with small kids, and I think there was a small kid or two. And so it was like, it looked like a dad and a mom and then like 3 kids. They may have thought that was made, but big deal, right?
Mhm.
And this lady's like, "They're not elite members." Well, how does she know that they're not elite members? How would she even know that, right? And then what business is it of hers, right?
Right.
So like 2 people were going to get on before you because she was essentially in the front of the line. So then we go and we sit down, and I'm like, "Oh man, please just get us away from this lady. I hope she's not sitting near us." She is sitting right next to my wife. So I have the window seat, Jana's in the middle, and this lady is there on the side. So there's a family of like 6 that are in front of us, like 2 in the first row, and then a couple in the second row, and a couple that are in front of us, and then there was 1 or 2 more that were further back, like in the exit row. So while we're waiting to take off, the flight attendant comes up with one of the kids that was in the back, and I say kids, I mean young, she's probably younger than 30, and says, "Hey, she would like to sit up here. Is there anyone that, to sit with the rest of her family? Is there anyone that would give up your seat?" And so this lady, who had already made the fuss, says, "Well, what row is it? Is it, it's just an exit row." So, she gets more leg room. She says, "Is it the exact same chairs?" And they recline, because on the Frontier, I think only the first 3 rows recline. None of the others do. And they said, "Yes." And she says, "Okay, well, I'll switch." So the girl goes to the back, gets her things, comes back up, and is ready to switch. And this lady goes, "No, I changed my mind. I'm going to keep my seat."
Wow.
Someone in that party was like, "Well, that was messed up, that you say you'll switch and now you won't switch." So the lady that sat next to my wife, who, by the way, is decked out in 100% Bucks gear, hat, shirt, jacket, pants, shoes, says, "No, F you. I don't have to move if I don't want to move. And so then, like, someone else that was in this group starts going off on this lady, and then now there's like 3 or 4 people that are going back and forth, and the one was like, "You shouldn't be cussing these kids, talking to these kids like that." Well, they weren't exactly kids because they had like tattoos, so they're at least 18, so not exactly kids. But I agree. I mean, the whole thing was just absolutely crazy. So the flight attendant says, "Hey, look, either we can squash this right now or people can start getting off the plane. Which one do y'all want to do?" And the lady said, "Well, I'm not getting off." She says, "Okay, well, you need to be quiet." And tells the other people, "Okay, you guys need to be quiet. Just let it go." And I was like, oh my goodness, like it was just the crazy, crazy drama. And I thought, man, are we going to get up here and they start again and get diverted? Because it was like almost a 5-hour flight. But everybody was good. But when we got off the plane, the not the woman who sort of started it all, but like the mother or whatever that's in that group got off, and she was ready to go again as soon as she got off that plane. And she was like standing there, were you deboard? And I was just like, oh, she's got me messed up. I'm like, man, it's been 5 hours. 5 hours. You had plenty of time to calm down. I took a nap. You could have taken a nap and calmed down. Why did you ready to fly? Oh man, it was absolutely insane. And that lady was telling us that she's just going out for vacation now, but she is a professional poker player.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, but and she was trying to make small talk to my wife. My wife was like, "Please don't associate with me after you just were acting like that. I don't want
that
we're together."
Exactly. Do you gamble at all? Do you do partake any of that?
No? Not really. I just did it for the free drinks, and
right.
we actually did really well. And what we learned was, so we went across the street to Casino Royale, tiny little place, but got the best service. I mean, there was every time that we went there, there was someone that was right there to help us out, and we did really well over there. And we just played the slot machines, took our time, sat and talked, and then we tipped good on the drinks and sometimes they wouldn't even take our money, the servers.
Really?
Yeah. Well, we would tip $5 on 2 drinks, and which one drink at our hotel was $15.
Oh, ugh.
Yeah. I got 2 drinks and the total came up to 32 after tax.
Oh, that's
right. Yeah. That's crazy, right? So we're just sitting there having drinks, and so we'll gladly pay $2.50 a piece for the drink. Is how we looked at it, and they just kept them coming, and we just had a great time just sitting there. And we the game that I played most was Mask, like the Jim Carrey movie.
Oh, okay.
From like 94 with Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it had a lot of bells and whistles and like funny stuff, and we didn't lose. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was, we would have sat there and, for the sake of the free drinks, as long as we weren't losing big, and we never did, but no, we're not into the gambling, and I just don't have money to throw away. And we're cheap and frugal, so we just couldn't do that.
Yeah. Same here. I can't fathom like losing a lot of money on a card game or a table game like that. My friend, a good friend of mine, we actually went to, Lake Tahoe. We went to Lake Tahoe to vacation over there, visit some friends around the area. And I think we were staying at Caesar's Palace. They had one there, or some sort of hotel that had a casino. And right when we get in, he goes to the blackjack table. We're not even 10 minutes. We just arrived like less than 10 minutes ago. He goes to the blackjack table, puts down $500 and loses it. And I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah. And I'm like, what are you doing? We just got here. You're already down 500. And he's like, yeah. So what? It's just, yeah. I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean, if you have that money to burn, fine. But I was like, in my head, I was like, oh my God, you could have done so much with that money, So,
right?
Yeah. And I just like, I'd stay away from stuff like that when I'm over at Vegas or in the casinos around here. I'd rather eat. That's where my money usually goes, to food,
Yeah, us too, or shows.
Yeah, I haven't been to a show in Vegas actually. I really wanted to go. Which show did you go and watch?
We saw This Is Christmas, which was like mostly American Idol people that had that were singing Christmas songs. You know, they had a couple little skits, and that was at the Palazzo at the Venetian. We went into Madame Tussauds Museum, which was really, really cool. I posted a few pictures in there. And the one that we really loved was called Extravaganza, and that was in Bally's. And it was super cool. I mean, a lot of like what you would expect from Vegas with the showgirls and whatnot.
Cool. I usually like going to watch like magicians or something. I like magic.
Yeah, Shin Lim was in our hotel, and I think he was on America's Got Talent or something, and but wasn't performing any of the nights that we were. So we were there the week before Christmas.
I see. Cool.
Yeah. Last time that we went, we saw some of the Cirque shows, and that was really cool. We saw the Cirque show. I think it's called the one with the water. So
okay.
Do like high dives on the stage into the water, and then they would have platforms that would cover it up at different points. But that was really neat. All right, Ariel. Let's go to part 2 of our interview with Chris Zaucha. And before we do, I just want to say, we've got a couple of the brother shippers who have reached out and who are excited to come on. So after the new year, we'll have some of those interviews with some of those fellas and anybody else that's interested in coming on and talking. I want it to be as interactive and include many members of the brothership as possible. Just feel free to shoot me a message, and then I'll work in after the new year. With now and the holidays, everybody's schedules is varying, and I think it'll open up a little bit and will be make it easier for us all to connect and have some good conversation. So let's go ahead and go to part 2 of my interview with Chris Zaucha.
FanFest was great. I pulled Barry aside and I'm like, this is really awesome, because I've been to I went to one StarCast and it was fun, and then I went to C2E2, which is like a bunch of fucking comic nerds shit stuff, but there's wrestlers there too, and that's fun. But there's like a zillion people there. You go to FanFest, there's like 9 other people are there. I'm like, fuck, this is fantastic. It's really for hardcore fans, but not too hardcore. We're not fucking super smart marks, because those people aren't very fun.
Yeah, what I thought was really cool about was the line wasn't long, and I'm making a list of hey, here's some advice for first timers of things I wish I knew. So the first one I went to was not the one before, but the one before, and let's see, Ricky Steamboat was there, Larry Zbyszko, Bob Orton, Rip Oliver.
Supposed to go to that. I got tickets and I had to cancel. I actually gave my ticket to Chris Spiker. I was supposed to go to that one. I was so pissed.
Oh wow. Well,
I didn't mean to step on your story. I apologize. Go on.
No, please, it sucks anyway. So my we got the $6 tickets. Jan and I we walk in, and I didn't know how anything worked. Right, not a clue. I have not been to a wrestling convention ever really, and I went and worked one with Michael Bukikio from High Spots back in 1999 or 98.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Wow.
Whenever SummerSlam was in New York City.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that was right when he was first getting High Spots going. And so we went and worked it. It was at the Meadowlands. So I walked in. I had no idea. And this guy comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, man, I got all these tickets. I'm not going to use. You guys want them?" I had no idea what the tickets were for. And I said, no, we're good. I'm not gonna just go up and go, "Hey, Ricky Steamboat, I love your arm drag, man."
Right? Yeah, exactly. Your arm drag was so deep. It was, but I don't think I'd say it to him.
So I was like, I just had no desire to go up and I don't know, mark out and ask stupid questions, because I didn't really have anything to ask. So we just kind of walked around, went to Glory Days and got dinner, and then we went home. So that
great FanFest experience.
Well, so this time, we got a hotel room. we got the ultras, and I said, hey, I'm gonna, because Barry talked about it. He says, hey, this is you got to get the whole experience. You got to have the cup of coffee. You got to do this, and you got to get do the dinner, and you got to do the after party. And I said, all right, cool. And then there were the talks of, well, the Thursday night Portillo's, and I don't want to drag Jana to all that stuff. As cool as it would have been, I mean, I feel bad enough making her go and spend the whole day, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I hear you.
But so this time we're going to go and stay on Friday night, and then all day Saturday, because there were some shenanigans Friday night.
Yeah.
And then stay all day Saturday, and then leave Sunday morning. So we're going to add a little bit more time to it.
That's cool. And what's nice about it is that like everything is right there. So it's like, your hotel's there. You go out and you like literally right next to the hotel is like that strip of all the restaurants and stuff. So if you want Mexican, they got Mexican. If you want Italian, they got Italian. If you want Chinese food, they got Chinese food. It's like they have everything. It's great. It's really convenient.
Yes, so we did sushi for lunch, and I wish we had taken somebody with us, because the conversations that we had outside, with people were as fun or as entertaining as Ricky Morton standing up there talking. It's right up there,
But and it's cool like hearing other people talk about like the wrestling that they like. So it's like for me, like I started watching in '79. But I would say like 84, 85 through like 2001. That's like my sweet spot, which I recognize that's a really long period of time. But that's like my sweet spot of like wrestling fandom, even though I still love it now. I don't know that I still love it as much as I always did. But I don't know that I'll ever love it the way I did then, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So like when I'm talking about like, I know a lot of like quote unquote smart fans like to bag on like Luger and stuff and Kevin Nash, and I'm like, dude, listen, Kevin Nash isn't fucking you're not gonna confuse him with Lou Thez, but what he did was good. It's like he's 100 feet tall. I don't want him to do a fucking arm dragger, fucking tackle, drop down, get it again. He's a big guy. I want him to do big guy stuff. Same with Luger. Luger was big, strong, and muscly. I don't want him to do fucking fancy moves. I want to put people in the torture rack and give him a power slam. That's all he needs to do. That's all I want to see.
Well, I equate it to, there's probably some movie that you liked when you were a kid, then you watch it as an adult and you go, oh my gosh, this sucked. It was my favorite movie when I was 6. You know what I mean? And like this, and that's the way that it is. It's like you liked who you liked, and just because maybe they're not the greatest or not as good as you remember them doesn't mean that you can't still like them.
Exactly. And especially like when I was watching, as a 13, 14, 15-year-old or however old I was at the time, like I wasn't a quote unquote smart fan. I didn't read the Observer. I didn't know what a shoot was. I didn't know what a work was. I didn't know what a blade job was. Like I knew that wrestling was predetermined. I didn't know the intricacies of it. So I would always watch it like a fucking mark, which I enjoyed a lot more that way. Because for a long time, when I really started like reading the Observer and the Torch, and I got like way too inside. Like I would watch like every segment I would watch. I'd sit there like nitpick it apart and be like, oh, this is stupid. Oh, it's not 5 stars or whatever the hell I was doing. I'm like, I'm not even enjoying this. Why am I? Vince McMahon is not calling me, asking me for ideas. So why the fuck am I putting so much thought into it? So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to watch this bullshit the same way I watched it when I was 15 years old, and I'll enjoy it a lot more. And I have. I just watch it. I don't put too much thought into it. It's like, look, it's fucking fake ass wrestling. No offense to anybody that does it, because I fucking love pro wrestling and pro wrestler, but it is what it is. It's not Casablanca, so I don't need to put that much thought into it. I just need to watch it, and if it's shitty, I'm like, well, this sucks. And if it's good, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm entertained. But I'm not going to sit there and like over nitpick it, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, when we were at the Christmas Carol, there was a point where the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come comes out, right? And
Yeah.
I'm watching this dude walk, and it's shaped like, the Grim Reaper sort of, with the hood and whatever. But it was tall. It was like, 8.5 feet tall maybe. And it's walking kind of weird with small steps. And I'm like, how in the heck, is this low budget local theater doing this crap?
Yeah.
And then at the end, when it reveals itself as the ghost of Jacob Marley, spoiler alert, 200 years later, I go, oh, he's on stilts. That's why he was walking funny, right? But in that moment, it wasn't like I was going, that's fake. That's really not a ghost that's walking. I wasn't like pointing out what they were doing wrong, or if someone flubbed the line, or I wasn't saying, oh, look at that botch, or hey, Tiny Tim's really playing the other character of a girl. I didn't. That Tiny Tim's other gimmicks. This girl. I wasn't like doing that. You sit back and you enjoy it. So I don't understand why people feel the need to, when they watch wrestling, to point out every flaw, or
Right.
over critique it or criticize it. It's like, just shut up and enjoy it, for what it is.
But don't nitpick it like anybody's asking for your opinion on it. It's like, whatever, you don't like it, that's fine, but don't be like, oh, well, the reason that doesn't look good is because the Irish whip was, perpendicular to this. It's like, shut up, you know what the hell you're talking about. Especially when like people are like non-wrestlers, like, oh, this guy's a terrible worker. I'm like, really? I like to see you get in the ring, because you would have no idea what the fuck you're doing. You have no idea.
Yeah, well, yeah. Did you watch the debut of Hook?
Yes.
What did you think?
It was fine. It was cool. What do you think?
Well, my first inclination was shit on it and say, oh, well, it's nepotism. Oh, it's Taz's boy.
Yeah.
And I really never liked, his character, how he came out with just a hood on, and you could tell he's shorter, and his dad's short. Right. So it's like, okay, well, how bad can he be, especially if he ends up against a Braun Strowman, let's just say, right, or Kevin Nash, right? But
big deal.
But he he's sort of his character in my opinion was just a little boring. But when I saw him wrestle, his character was still boring, but he wasn't half bad. But then I listened to the crowd, and the crowd was into what he was doing.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's talking about it like it's, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people are treating it like it's a super huge deal. I don't see it, but that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're wrong and I'm right. I just think, I thought his debut was good. The crowd was with him. So obviously, he's got a following. So, and his stuff looked good. And I was a big time mark for Taz in like 99, 2000. So to see him, it is Taz's son, right? I don't want to sound stupid. It is Taz's kid, right?
Yeah. Allegedly.
Okay. He looks just like him, and he's the same size, but I assume it.
Until they go on Maury Povich.
Yeah, exactly. You find out it's actually Tommy Dreamers. You find out it's Stevie Richards. But he, he does a lot of the same moves. He does that hand and arm Tazplex or whatever it's called. He does the Kata Hajime. So I popped for that. I'm like, oh, sweet, this is awesome. He'll be fine. I mean, in AEW, he'll be good. I'm sure if he went to WWE that, Vince would, make him Doink Jr. or something stupid. But listen, you can never have too many newcomers in pro wrestling. You know what I mean? Because we've seen enough of these guys long enough. So to have a new guy come along is always a good thing.
Yeah. So I first wanted to shit on him, but it ends up that after I watched it and heard the reactions he was getting, I was like, oh, he's not bad. I don't like I wasn't a huge fan of Taz, because it's easy. Anybody can go in there and stand in the ring and cross their arms, and and act tough. But not everybody can do Rob Van Dam's split-legged moonsault, or can jump up and kick your teeth out the way that he does, right? Sure. I'm more impressed with the athleticism and the entertainment of it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I understand. I think it would be cool if Hook. He had entrance music, right? I don't remember.
Yes, it was Action Bronson.
I wish he didn't have any entrance music. Like, he just came to the ring, and that's one thing I miss. I was watching like old WWF from like '84, and like it was like Andre and it was a Piper video. It was Piper and Dr. D against Andre and Jimmy Snuka, and just because you've been watching a long time too, at least I assume you have. So when you see the guys before everybody had entrance music, when you see them come to the ring and you hear the crowd start to like murmur a little bit, and then eventually they all see who's coming out, and then they tend to get a more natural response as opposed to people popping just for the music. Does that make sense?
1000%. You are right. And actually, I thought about that today because I remember talking to Jimmy Valiant like in 97, 98-ish. And he said, when he was taking credit for the whole music thing and how he was one of the first people that came out with it, and and blah 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 blah. And he said, he said, I tell my guys now to find something no one else is doing and do that, so that you stand out and that people see. He said, so now I would not come out to music, and you know what, I think that works would work really well in a crowded place, right? Like in a crowded building with a bunch of people, but in the gyms with 15 or 20 people, it would be unbearably awkward.
May not be quite the same, but like let's say you have today at like WrestleMania or whatever, and you have not necessarily John Cena, but like if you have Roman Reigns come out with no music, and you just eventually, first you hear a few people booing, or a few thousand people booing, and then you hear like a whole stadium just fucking booing his ass. Not necessarily Reigns, but somebody like that, a top star like that. I think it would make him that would definitely make him stand out. Like I said, you get a more natural reaction than just people just popping for the first guitar chord of whatever theme song you have.
Right. Yeah. No, you're 100% correct. That would be awesome. I mean, it would be really cool to actually get a visceral reaction from the crowd.
Yes.
And I did never think about it, that people are actually popping for the music.
Yeah, it's like you hear like, if you smell, everybody pops for that, and it's awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong, but just if you just had a guy just come out, because if you're a big enough star, you don't need music. You know what I mean? Like Hogan can come out, although now Hogan doesn't get a really good reaction. They kind of don't. But Austin.
I think there was a little run where Dolph Ziggler would come out and his music would stop. He'd stop his music.
Oh, really?
And they would do like a fake record scratch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then he would, come on out with it. But I'm sure that the powers that be just didn't like it, or didn't like the way it was shot, or whatever. But
that's Dolph Ziggler, somebody that never did much for me, but he had a really big following. I don't quite know why he didn't go further, but I don't make those types of decisions, so I'm not quite sure.
You know what's crazy about the wrestling business? I mean, there's a bunch, but one thing is that you take somebody like him that has some legitimate wrestling skill, but you don't make it look so he doesn't do anything that actually shows that he has any wrestling skill, right? And you take Taz's son, who was a lacrosse player.
Yeah.
And Taz hypes him up as judo and jiu-jitsu, which he may have studied, but Dolph wrestled college at Kent State. That's a little different than your play judo or whatever at the local judo place, right? This is actually competition, and it's stiff. So it's like they hype up Hook, who's smaller, younger, as this badass.
Yeah.
But then Dolph, pretty boy, whatever, and he doesn't show, any of his actual legitimate wrestling skills whatsoever, right?
Right. Yep. And I don't want to bag on WWE too much, but some of the stuff they do and some of the decisions they make creatively and character-wise and otherwise, it's like, how the fuck did these guys beat Jim Crockett Promotions? You know what I mean? It's like some of this shit's so fucking bad. How the fuck are they the last promotion standing? You know what I mean? How did this happen? It's like this guy Vince McMahon beat Bill Watts. Are you serious? You know what I mean? But obviously he knew something I didn't know. So
bad and getting worse, because NXT was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, okay, now I'm gonna get angry. So you look at the guys on Raw and SmackDown. So you got Randy Orton. He's phenomenal. Randy Orton's fucking great. Bobby Lashley. I like Bobby Lashley a lot. Like, he's not gonna have 5-star matches, but he doesn't have to. Big scary black guy, legit fighter, could fucking probably eat people. Just have him murder guys. That's all he should be doing. They had a cool thing with the Hurt Business when it was Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander, and then MVP as a mouthpiece. I'm like, holy shit, man. this a perfect, like, for once you see like a fucking lead heel faction with black guys. I don't want to make this a racing, but it's true. It's like, fuck, you got top guys that are all black dudes. And then on SmackDown, you have Roman Reigns and the Usos. And it's like, holy shit, can you imagine if they built to like Survivor Series and actually make Survivor Series a watchable show, and you do the Hurt Business against Roman Reigns' the Bloodline, and just the promos MVP and Paul Heyman are cutting on each other. And it's like, holy shit, man, license to print money. No, we'll split up the Hurt Business because Vince changed his mind. It's like, what are you doing? Why? It's getting over, so let's split it up.
Yeah, and Hurt Business worked because they look like four guys that would hang out together, right? And the Bloodline, look, like they're related.
Right. I don't get it. And I think because Lashley was on like Austin's podcast on the network or on Peacock, and Lashley said like the Hurt Business was like basically his and MVP's idea. I'm like, well, that explains it. It wasn't Vince's idea, so he split them up. And at least that's all I can guess, because the four of them together were really good. I think they're back together now, but Lashley's not champion. It's like, well, now it's too late. What the fuck?
Right. Yeah. They missed the boat.
Yeah, you shouldn't have split them up to begin with. And why they haven't done Brock versus Lashley yet is just mind-numbing. It's like, dude, you got like two legit fighters here. Again, you're not going to have a 5-star match, but nobody wants to see that. They just want to see two guys beat the shit out of each other. Not that hard.
Back in the day, we believed it even if it wasn't, right? And that's what I think that wrestling is missing it's missing the little bit of realism of where you could just get lost in the moment and be like, is this real or is it not?
Yes. Yeah. And they have it right there. They have it right in front of their face if they did Lashley and Lesnar. Again, I mean, and that's really a match that's like, that's not going to have like, and maybe Vince is trying to look at matches that are going to have like crossover appeal or whatever. And maybe that match doesn't have crossover appeal, but who cares? You just, it's not like it's not going to appeal to the people that are currently watching the product, which by the way, the number keeps going down.
Well, to me, why NXT worked is because you had experienced indie workers in there with the new people that they wanted to bring in. And so you had people like when they brought Kushida in, and it's like my kids got to go to Largo, Florida and see Kushida, and they didn't know who he was, what he had done or whatever, and he's wrestling in front of 300 people in main event versus Austin Theory, and it was tremendous, and he could be over the Tokyo Dome in front of 10,000 people.
Yeah. I think because I liked NXT. I haven't watched the new version of NXT. It may be fine. I don't have any idea. I haven't watched it. I do watch Rick Steiner's Kid because it's Rick Steiner's Kid. But I don't know if Vince just looked at it and said, oh, we got all these midgets here. I'm done with this NXT situation and we're going to revamp it and do whatever. It's like, well, why you take, and again, I haven't watched it, so maybe I shouldn't even have an opinion. But to me, the little bit of it that I saw, it almost looks like WWE, right? Like it doesn't look like it's different than what they're presenting on Raw and SmackDown. Am I way off base, or am I correct? Or
I haven't watched it either, but just because I haven't watched something, I have an opinion. I read what the people in our group post or what people in another group post, and to me, it's there's difference, and you can tell that there's difference by the number of people that have left. Adam Cole, Bobby Fish.
Yeah, I'm surprised Adam Cole left, but on the flip side, he gets to be with his girlfriend now. He gets to be with his friends. I'm sure they're paying him good, so I don't begrudge him at all. Supposedly, whatever idea they had for him in WWE, where he was going to be like managing somebody, which really that's not the problem, and that's not a terrible idea. The problem is that they're so wishy-washy in WWE that they may be like, hey, you're going to manage Joe Schmo. And then 2 weeks later, like, it's not working. We're just going to put you in. You're going to be on 205 Live or something like, you know what I mean? Because Vince says he's so flighty and just keeps changing his mind on stuff. And maybe Adam Cole thought like, well, I don't want to commit to something and then have you be like, we're going to do something else.
Well, yeah, they probably wouldn't even build up to it to where it actually even made sense. And it's like, come on, who are they to tell a guy, hey, your in-ring career is over, based on we don't want you to wrestle anymore, so we're going to make you a manager. If he's like, hey, I still want to wrestle, then guess what? Then if he thinks he's still got some bumps left in him, then he's got to do what he thinks is right. I mean, you don't want to, he doesn't want to take his career and put it in someone else's hands and say, hey, you're done. And then look at Daniel Bryan. That's what they did to him, right?
Yep.
And now that guy is tremendous.
He's a great heel. He's a really good heel. I'm starting to wonder if he's an asshole in real life because he's such a good heel. He's really good.
Oh my gosh! So I don't watch it. I don't watch AEW. I don't watch NXT. Don't watch any of that. I'll just watch clips on YouTube. Yes. We used to have the WWE subscription, and then the pandemic happened, and my daughter got out of wrestling, so I canceled the WWE. Then they moved the WWE to the Peacock. Yeah. I'll just watch clips of whatever, and what I've seen of Daniel Bryan, and I've watched full matches of his, is phenomenal.
Yeah, he's great.
And just think about how good it is to have someone like him who had all the time on the indies and then had all the time in the WWE, and then all the time on the sidelines, but still in the WWE. And now he's in AEW. The things he could be teaching those guys, which he seems like, he's got his stuff together, right? He's not like, he's not like the guy, hey, let's go out and bang rats after the show, exactly. And let's go get drunk and take pills and whatever. He's got his head together. So I'm sure he's helping, coaching, and, giving guys feedback and making everybody there better.
Yeah, they made a lot of good signings this year. The only thing that is, I don't want to say it's troubling, but the ratings really haven't reflected. Like they'll have a bump for 1 week or 2 weeks and then it just goes back down. And I don't know if that's because of the quality of show or because the segments that I watch are fucking awesome. Like the MJF stuff, the CM Punk stuff. One guy that's really is Christian is still there, right? Is he still in AEW?
I don't know. I haven't seen his. I think he's the Impact champion. I think
he dropped the belt.
Oh, he did. He did. Josh Alexander, right? He's got it now.
Yeah, and then he dropped it right away to Moose. I think. I don't know. Or so I don't fucking know. But Christian's been an MVP this year. Like he was in WWE. And then he was in the AEW and Impact, so he's had a really good year. So there's no shortage of talent there. It's just a matter of finding a really hot angle, I guess, and just kind of building off of that, which apparently is kind of hard to do because, like I said, they keep drawing the same number or roughly.
Well, I don't know whether it's true or not, but I've read that Tony Khan is the booker. So, yeah. And look, people would say, people who've been in the business will probably say, oh, well, he shouldn't be the booker. He's never been a wrestler, or he hasn't been around long enough, or whatever. Well, actually, it's his money or his dad's money. Who cares, right? But it's his money, and he's been a fan long enough. And obviously, the guy's doing plenty of things right.
Yeah, he's fine, and that's because for a while, my buddy Lou and I would be like, oh, this fucking Money Mark, what a Mizar, can we just make fun of him? And then I'm like, dude, I got to see Tully Blanchard wrestle on TNT in 2021, so Tony Khan is completely fucking fine by me. You know what I mean? It's like he books for fans like us that grew up in the 80s and 90s because he's using guys from back then, like Sting, and I mean, obviously Sting is kind of limited as to what he could do, but still it's all these guys like Arn and Tully and Jake the Snake, and maybe not using them in prominent roles, but still using them in some way. And then the new school guys Darby Allin's fucking awesome. He's really good. Jungle Boy's really good. Luchasaurus isn't that good, but he looks cool. So I mean, I guess that's something. So there's no shortage of talent there at all.
Yeah, and look at him. He bought the Jungle Boy song. Yeah, somebody else, he bought their song, and it's who has Vince done that for? One person, CM Punk, right?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't think AEW is going to be taking over WWE anytime soon, but I do worry about just the state of pro wrestling in general. because WWE isn't putting out amazing numbers either. So I don't know. I mean, you can only see the same guys for so long until you're like, that's enough. Because if you look at WWE, I mean, look at the guys that are on top. Randy Orton, the same guys have been on top forever.
Yeah, I think what's missing is just more realism of getting you sucked in, because here's the thing: once MMA started to get popular and you see people get punched in the face and and then you see a lopsided nose afterwards, it's hard to watch the WWE and get sucked in.
Yeah.
On the contrary, it's the kids that like my daughter loved it, right? And she would still love it, because she started watching when she was 10 when I moved here. She would still be watching it if the pandemic hadn't have shut it down and she couldn't go to the shows, because she loved going to the shows. And so every time they came here, NXT, we would go and see it, and I'm sure we would have went and seen other independent shows, because I tell them really the fun you're going to have is going to be more than what you would have at NXT when you go and you see like some really bad shows and you still just goof off and you have a good time.
Right.
Yeah, and then of course the programming changed is another reason why she didn't want to watch it anymore, because who wants to watch it without people there, and then Becky Lynch left. So, but my point is, my daughter would still be a fan, and then you would have this fan who went from 10 years old liking it till she's 20 liking it, or 25 and liking it, and then gets her kids into it. I think that's what it's missed, is like there's just been a generational where people don't stay into it the way that we have, or Barry Rose, or
attention spans are different nowadays too. Like everything, and I'm speaking as somebody that has a really short attention span, but now it's like it's a TikTok type world now. Like you watch TikTok videos 15 seconds long and then you're done. You move on to the next thing. It's just everything seems to move so fast nowadays. So you can't necessarily commit your fanhood or fanboyism or whatever to one thing for a very long time. At least that's what I don't know.
Well, you can't when it takes up 3 hours on Monday, 2 hours on Thursday, and then every other Saturday night. You've got or Sunday night you got a pay-per-view, so it's all that time is time consuming. But my kids, what they watch, probably the same as yours. It's like YouTube, Netflix, and that's it, right? But there for a while, my daughter was everything. It was she loved the shows where the girls were riding in the car or whatever, and she would quote Becky Lynch or what she said. I mean, she was just all into all of that programming, and I think that's part of what AEW is missing, right? Because she used to watch that YouTube Family. Are you familiar with them?
No.
So basically, it's a dad, a mom, a couple kids, and they play games or whatever, and they have a ton of content of just dumb shit that you could. So they're watching this family do stuff in the house that we could be doing as a family around the house, right? We could be playing the exact same game, but they would rather watch other people play. So I think that missing the entertaining the kids part is kind of what the AEW is kind of missing because character development too, in my opinion, right? Because it's hard to develop a character when they get an 8-minute match, and they might even get a promo like Fuego del Sol. I saw he got a contract offered, right?
Yeah.
But can't remember ever seeing him really talk, or who is he? What is he? I heard he's from Alabama. When he was going up against Hook, they announced him from Alabama. It's like, give me something to buy into Fuego del Sol and who he is, and why should I care about the match that he's in?
And I don't know that yet. And that may be a thing where they like do it on like their AEW Dark like YouTube show. I don't have any idea. But again, it's like, okay, so that's another 7 hours I need to commit to pro wrestling. It's like, I cannot, and I fucking love pro wrestling, but Jesus Christ, I can't watch that much. Like, all right, 3 hours of Raw. Okay, no, that's not happening. Then NXT on Tuesday, right? That's 2 hours. 2 hours of AEW. So that's 7 hours I've dedicated to pro wrestling. And that, let's just pretend I don't work at night. So I was like, okay, let's say I'm home. So now I've spent 7 hours watching wrestling instead of, taking my kids to the grocery store or something. Then if you, God forbid, you watch Impact, which I don't know why anybody would, but you watch Impact, so that's 9 hours. Then you get to SmackDown. I watched 11 hours of fucking pro wrestling this week. No, I can never watch that much wrestling in 1 week and then do it every single week. Fuck that. And then I gotta watch AEW Dark too, so I can find out what the hell's going on. It's like, okay, what am I gonna watch? 20 hours of wrestling?
Yeah. Here's what you gotta do. You gotta wait for the headlines and then go back and watch it.
That's all I do. I look for, I hear about the segment with Punk or MJF or not Jericho so much, but whatever. Any segment that I hear that is good, I'll go back and watch it. But there's no way I can imagine sitting through 3 hours of Raw, which is hilarious because I remember, 20-something years ago when you couldn't miss Raw. You had to see all of it, or you had to see all of Nitro.
Yeah, because they were going head to head, and you knew they were going to pull out all the stops.
Oh God, that was the best. That was such an amazing time. Like the 80s were amazing. Don't get me wrong, 80s wrestling was the shit. But that mid to late 90s into early 2000s was phenomenal because they were both putting out what they felt was the best product to put out just because they were competing with, the other company. That was great stuff.
Hey, so I got one more thing and then we'll wrap up here.
Yeah.
Did you see the post that Ariel Agbalog made about you?
No. What did he say? What did he have?
I think he tagged you in the Breaking Kayfabe group. He said, "Oh." He says he looks like so he's got his head shaved, and he says,
"Oh, he said like
when you order Chris Zaucha off of Wish,
yeah, you get the Ariel Agbalog."
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah,
he's a cool guy. He's real funny. He's got a lot of.
Dude, thank you so much for finally getting to talk. Anytime you want to talk, man, if you see me on the messenger late at night, let me know. Here's my routine. I wake up, I use the bathroom, then I put on First 48, and I'm rewatching all the episodes. I'm on season 5, and then I fall asleep, and then I might wake up in a couple hours to do it again. So if you see me on and you're up and you're just in from work, you need to wind down, talk some wrestling, we'll be happy to record and get you on another episode. Did you see that? Richard Dawson's like, why didn't you have Chris on? He's a god.
You know what's fun? Like I'm super duper flaky. Like I'll be like, I don't really like doing anything today, and it's not because I'm a dick or anything like that, or because I don't like you or whatever. It's just like I'm just so. It's part of the reason why I stopped singing in a rock band too. Like we had other issues with the kids, but I'm just like, I don't feel like doing anything today. I feel like I now get why Austin Idol is the way he is, or even Barry Windham, where they wake up, they're like, I just want to stay home. I understand. They really speak to me because sometimes I just don't want to do anything.
No, I get that too, man. But I'll tell you, you are very entertaining. And for some reason, everybody in every Facebook group that we're in together loves you. Thank you so much, Ariel, for being on with me and sharing, this talk about your family and food and the holidays. Next week we will pick up another topic and have a great discussion for the brother shippers.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry my family's boring and or crazy, but yeah, it's we had a good holiday.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being boring and or crazy. I have been accused of both.
Nice.
All right. Well, thank you so much, man. You have a great day.
You too. Thank you.